What if the person you're falling for is the worst thing that could ever happen to you? Not because they're bad, but because of something invisible, something your brain is doing right now that you have absolutely no idea about. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you a psychological trap that has destroyed thousands of men's lives, and most of them never even saw it coming. Ever. I need to ask you something first. Have you ever met someone significantly older or younger than you and felt something you couldn't explain, like she saw you differently, paid attention in a way that felt almost unreal? If that's happened to you, this video is going to hit different, because what I'm about to break down isn't just psychology. It's the hidden wiring behind why men get emotionally destroyed in age gap relationships and never understand why. And at the 4-minute mark, I'm going to tell you something that most psychologists won't say out loud. So don't go anywhere. Let me tell you about a guy. Call him Marcus, 32 years old, smart, stable job, generally had his life together. He meets a 22-year-old woman at a work event. She's curious, energetic, looks at him like he's the most interesting person in the room. Within 3 weeks, Marcus is rearranging his entire life around her schedule, canceling plans with friends, checking his phone every 20 minutes, losing sleep. His friends asked him, "Bro, what's happening to you?" And Marcus said the one thing that should have been a red flag: "I don't know, I just feel like I've never felt this before." That sentence right there, that's not love talking. That's your nervous system in a state of controlled chaos. And I'll explain exactly why in just a moment. Now, before I go deeper, if this video is making you think of someone specific right now, someone older, someone younger, someone who made your chest feel tight in a way you couldn't explain, you need to keep watching, because what comes next is going to reframe everything you thought you understood about attraction. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button right now, because I cover this kind of content every week, the stuff nobody else talks about. All right, let's go. Here's the question nobody asks when they're falling for someone with an age gap. What am I actually responding to? This person, or what this person represents? Hold that thought, because in 30 seconds we're going into the deep end. Listen carefully, because what I'm about to tell you will make you question every message you've ever received from someone who is not your age, and it might already be happening to you. Someone has fallen in love with you, but there's an age gap that changes everything you think you know about attraction and attachment. I'm a psychologist, and I want you to stay with me, because this is not just about romance. This is about psychology, power, and emotional vulnerability. Now imagine someone older or younger than you starts paying attention to you in a way that feels intense, almost unreal, like they see something in you that no one else does. Your mind does something very dangerous. It fills in the gaps with meaning. It tells you this must be rare, this must be special, this must be fate. But psychology tells us something very different about age gap attraction. It is not always about love. It is often about projection, curiosity, and unmet emotional needs. Wait, pause here for a second, because what I just described, most men scroll past this. They hear psychology and they think, that's not me. But Marcus thought that too. Remember him? By month 2, he had changed his career plans, turned down a promotion, all because of a feeling he never examined. Don't be Marcus. Keep watching, because the next part explains exactly what's happening in your nervous system during these connections. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Here's where most people lose clarity. They confuse intensity with compatibility. They confuse attention with commitment. If you've ever felt pulled towards someone significantly older or younger, you're not alone. But there's a deeper truth hidden inside this dynamic that most people never hear. What feels like connection can sometimes be emotional mismatch in disguise. When someone older connects with someone younger, there's a psychological transfer happening beneath the surface. One person is seeking vitality, novelty, or validation. The other may be seeking guidance, stability, or attention. And this imbalance, this gap in emotional needs, creates a charge that feels like love. But it's chemistry built on difference rather than alignment. You may find yourself replaying conversations, interpreting every message as something deeper than it actually is. But your brain is not always telling you the truth. It's trying to make sense of emotional stimulation and novelty. And when age difference enters the equation, power dynamics sit beneath the surface, influencing your feelings without you even realizing it. Here's a word I want you to burn into your memory: projection. Psychologists call it one of the most powerful distortions in human connection. And in age gap attraction, it runs everything. When you're younger, you may project safety, wisdom, or stability onto someone older, as if they already have the answers to life that you're still searching for. You feel uncertain in your own world, and they appear grounded, calm, emotionally complete. But what you're actually seeing is not always reality. It's your need for direction reflected back at you. And when you're older, the projection shifts into something different: youth, energy, admiration, the feeling of being needed or emotionally reawakened. You feel like you're being seen in a way that life stopped giving you years ago. But here's the uncomfortable truth: projection feels like chemistry because it creates intensity without stability. Your mind fills in missing emotional information with fantasy, and that fantasy becomes emotionally addictive. You start to anticipate messages, overthink silence, assign meaning to small gestures that were never meant to carry weight. This is where attachment forms, not from real understanding, but from emotional anticipation. And the more uncertainty in the dynamic, the stronger the emotional pull. I worked with a client once. He was 45, successful, divorced. He met a 27-year-old woman who made him feel, in his words, like I was 30 again. She didn't do anything manipulative. She was just young, curious, open, but he started making decisions, financial decisions, life decisions, based on where he imagined their relationship going. 6 months in, she moved on. And he told me, I feel like I lost 10 years of progress in 6 months. What he lost wasn't a relationship. He lost himself inside a projection he built around someone who never agreed to carry it. If you're still here, and I think you are because this is hitting something real, go ahead and subscribe right now, because next week I'm covering something that connects directly to this: the psychological reason why emotionally unavailable people feel more attractive than stable ones. It's the same mechanism, and most men fall for it their entire lives without knowing why. But today, let's keep going, because we're at the part most psychology videos completely skip over. One of the most overlooked forces in age gap attraction is power perception. Not real power necessarily, but perceived emotional or social power. You may start to feel like they know something you don't, or that they're emotionally ahead of you or behind you in a way that creates imbalance. And that imbalance, it feels like attraction because it activates your need to either catch up or guide them. This is where emotional roles quietly form: mentor, follower, savior, student. Nobody agreed to these roles, but once they form, feelings intensify. Because roles create structure, and structure feels like meaning. But meaning is not always truth. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been in a situation where someone's silence, just silence, made you anxious? Where you started reading into the time between messages? That's not weakness. That's your nervous system doing exactly what it's designed to do, except it's been hijacked by inconsistency. And in age gap dynamics, inconsistency is almost always built into the structure. Here's why. Humans naturally calibrate themselves to perceived authority or novelty. If the other person seems more experienced, your brain unconsciously defers to them. If they seem more emotionally open, your brain becomes more protective, more invested. Neither of these responses is neutral. They change how you interpret everything: tone, silence, affection. And here's the brutal truth about inconsistent attention. Psychology shows that inconsistency creates more attachment than consistency ever could. The brain is wired to prioritize what it cannot predict. So when someone gives you attention in waves, sometimes deeply engaged, sometimes distant, your nervous system starts to rank them higher in your emotional world without your permission. And you begin to build meaning around their inconsistency. You tell yourself, she's complex, she's deep, she's misunderstood. But what you're actually experiencing is emotional fixation, not depth. I'll tell you something most psychologists won't admit publicly. I had a professor in grad school, brilliant man, 58 years old. He had studied attachment theory for 30 years. He fell for a student, not his, but at the same university. She was 29. He knew every psychological mechanism at play. He could name the projection, identify the power dynamic, understand the inconsistency loop, and he still lost 6 months of his life to it because knowing the pattern doesn't automatically free you from it. You have to slow down long enough to observe yourself feeling it in real time. That's what we're training right now. All right? We're coming into the final stretch, and I need you to hear this clearly, without emotion distorting it. Because this is where awareness either frees you or keeps you stuck. Age gap attraction is not automatically wrong. It's not automatically right. What matters is not the age difference. What matters is the emotional structure inside it. Are both people meeting each other as equals in emotional responsibility, respect, and clarity? Or is one person carrying more of the emotional weight without realizing it? When feelings are strong, your mind will always try to justify the connection. It creates stories, highlights the best moments, minimizes the confusing ones, because that's what attachment does. It protects the bond, even when the bond is not stable. But you are not your attachment response, you are the observer of it. Here are the 3 questions I want you to ask yourself. Right now, about any intense connection you're in. 1. How do I consistently feel over time, not just in the high moments? 2. Do I feel emotionally grounded around this person or emotionally activated? 3. Do I need to decode them constantly, or do I feel understood without effort? Because here's what I know after years in this field. Clarity is rarely chaotic. Confusion is rarely random. It usually points to misalignment in timing, expectations, or emotional availability. If this connection is real, it will survive your clarity. It will not require you to ignore your instincts, your needs, or your emotional stability to keep existing. And if it does require that, then what you're feeling is not love in its most grounded form. It's emotional entanglement, shaped by difference, timing, and psychological projection. And you deserve to know the difference, because once you do, you will never again confuse chaos for connection. If this video made you think, gave you even one moment of real clarity, hit subscribe, because this channel exists for exactly this reason, to give men the psychological tools that nobody else is handing them. Next video drops soon, and trust me, you don't want to miss it. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you there.